think my laptop is a minute fast, so it's throwing me off. I keep checking my phone. Okay. So I think I am also going to just pop open the splash screen, maybe.
So live stream is successful. We are going out.
Thanks. I'm going to, actually, we'll save the splash page for the end, I think. So welcome everybody to our 6th annual Stork Storytime Expo. We're sponsored by Mercy, Iowa City, so thank you, Mercy, Iowa. I also wanted to welcome our panelists. Thanks to them for spending their weekend with us and taking time to share their knowledge and expertise. So this year's looks a little bit different from our prior format. Going virtual is hopefully going to be a great opportunity for even more folks to join us and have this opportunity to learn from these local experts. So I'll be asking questions of all the panelists, and we'll be watching the chat area. If anybody has questions for our panelists, feel free to drop those there. So during the webinar, families, if you could stay on mute, you'll all be on mute, but if you have questions, again, type them in. We just wrapped up our health panel, and both sessions will be recorded, so you can listen later if that's something you want to do, or look back and find somebody to connect with from our panelists. That'll be an easy way to do that. So we'll go ahead and get started by introducing our panelists. If each of you could just give us a couple of minutes introduction about yourself, how long you've been at your current position, what you do there, and we will start with Tara Rudolfi from Genesis Pediatric Therapy Center.
Hi, thank you, Amy. My name is Tara Rudolfi. As Amy said, I'm a physical therapist at Genesis Pediatric Therapy Center, and we're located in Cornell. I've been a physical therapist there for 10 years now, so quite a while. We offer physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy services, primarily to the pediatric population. However, we do also offer pelvic health services to women, prenatal and postpartum, and for kids that suffer from daytime or nighttime incontinence that might have difficulties with the pelvic floor muscle dysfunction. Some of our PT and OT services are geared towards restoring maximal functional abilities in kids that are challenged by a delay. And that delay could be from sitting to crawling to talking. We also offer serial casting, which is a service to restore range of motion. That could be in a foot and ankle or in an arm, along with services called constraint-induced movement therapy, which is CIMT, which can help a child that maybe had a stroke or a brain injury relearn how to use their affected side. Some really cool services that we love to offer these kids. Our speech therapist, she specializes, I can't speak specifically to her services because she's the expert, but she provides services in infant feeding, breast and bottle feeding difficulties, and early intervention. And overall, we love seeing our patients progress and achieve tasks that nobody believed they were able. And we don't like to think, at Genesis, we don't like to think about disabilities, but abilities. And we have a lot of fun as well.
Thank you. That's great, Tara. I'd also now like to welcome Jennifer Cornell from the Iowa Family Support Network.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Cornell. I'm the Intake and Referral Program Coordinator with Iowa Family Support Network, and I've been with Iowa Family Support Network for a little over 4 years now. So the Iowa Family Support Network is a coordinated intake and referral system. So we help families and providers find resources and information throughout the entire state of Iowa is actually what we cover. So our actual office is based out of Des Moines, but we do cover all 99 counties in Iowa. So some of the programs that we help connect families and providers to are the early access program. So if there's any developmental concerns for children, that would be the early access program that we could help connect you to. Family support programs, which are those programs that go typically out into the family's home. And then group-based, so in the community or group setting, like parenting classes. And then EDI program, early hearing detection intervention program. So if a child failed their newborn hearing screening or maybe never got a newborn hearing screening, we can help connect you to the hearing booth that would be in your area. And then we have our Children at Home program, which is for families who have a child with a disability, where we can help pay for items or services that are specifically related to the child's disability. So for example, we pay for some adaptive equipment. So maybe a wheelchair that insurance will only cover half of it. Then we can help pay the remaining. Therapeutic equipment, so like a sensory swing, just items kind of like that, technology items. So maybe talking apps for a child who's nonverbal, or a tablet or iPad, especially for telehealth services right now for families. So those type of items that we can help pay for.
That sounds like something a lot of families benefit greatly from. So thank you to you guys and everything that you do. I would next like to welcome Pam Hoogerworth. I'm sorry, I hope I pronounced your last name correctly. She's joining us from the University of Iowa Families Children's Hospital and their safety store that's located there.
Thanks, Amy. No, you did a great job. It's Hoogerworth. It's a Dutch name. I married into that. And let me tell you, it gets butchered way worse than that. So it's great to be part of this event virtually. It's something that we've certainly had a presence at in the past when we've been able to do this an in-person event. But I'm just so happy that you were able to carry on with this event and allow us to connect with your audience and help them out in any way that we can. So yes, I've been at the Children's Hospital since 2008. I started a new role because what was noticed is that our unintentional injuries to pediatric patients, so in other words, the kids that get in bike crashes or the kids that, fall down and hit themselves and whether it's inside or outside the house, the data was showing that the pediatric injuries were going up substantially. And so our hospital leaders wanted to start this program so that we could hopefully reduce the significance of an injury or possibly even prevent it at all from happening, because most unintentional injuries actually could be prevented had we have chosen a safer behavior, whether the children chose the safer behavior or the parents as the gatekeepers of safety, educated them and, held firm on choosing safer behaviors. I think one thing I always like to point out when I have an audience is that it's unintentional injuries to pediatric patients that they're actually disabling and killing pediatric patients faster than any other disease or anything that's going on in this world. So up until 18 years of age, an unintentional injury is the biggest danger for a child. And so our leadership is very supportive of the program that we do. So above that is the safety store. So I'm the program manager of the pediatric injury prevention program at the hospital. And the safety store I kind of talk about is our foundation of our injury prevention program. It indeed is a store. It's a retail store that we sell things in. But two things related to that is our first two missions and most important missions are all of our staff are actually certified pediatric injury prevention experts. So we can help with a vast amount of education and needs for our for patients and families. And so if a person has a specific, let's just take for an example, you're in a house that's got a real unique stairway and you need to put a safety gate up, that's where you can lean on us to help you with that information. And so the education that we're provided is our first mission. The second thing that I like to make clear to make everybody understand is that we keep prices lower than you can get them anywhere, whether it's online or in other retail stores. We are not a money-making venture. We are a nonprofit. We don't want price to be a barrier for our families. So, and we welcome anyone. You don't have to be patients of our hospital. We do a lot of actually sales throughout the United States, again, because of the education we provide and the prices that we can pass on to our patients, families, and customers.
That's wonderful, especially that education piece and that just giving that knowledge of, and so thank you for joining us, Pam. And last but not least, we have Rachel Domeyer from the Iowa Children's Museum.
Hi, it's actually Rebecca, which is totally, it happens.
Oh my God, I know that. So I'm so sorry.
Okay, it's totally fine. So my name is Rebecca. I am an education program coordinator at the Iowa Children's Museum. So that just means I get to do all the fun things, like the things we used to be able to do before the pandemic, like outreach. I would come to this event all the time and work with the North Liberty Library, our field trips, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So who we are as an organization, we are a nonprofit organization who believes that play is essential for development. So our mission is for every child to imagine, create, discover, and explore through the power of play. And we execute that with education initiatives, and those are STEM, healthy kids, financial literacy, arts and culture, and I'm blanking on the last one. It'll come to me, but it's also on our website. So we also theme our exhibits based on these education initiatives. So we have 28,000 square feet in our facility, and we have 13 exhibits that kind of emphasize all of these things. So we've had to make a lot of adjustments because of COVID-19, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. But my job has really changed drastically since the pandemic started. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But we believe play is essential in children development, from social and emotional learning to spatial relations to fine and gross motor skills. So we're open, and we continue to be open currently.
Awesome. Yes, and let's go ahead and jump right into those questions that I'm sure folks are wondering about, how services are being affected in this unique time for us. So if we want to just go around, we'll start from where we first started from with Tara. How has access to your physical buildings changed during this time?
That's a great question. Actually, so as a therapy clinic, we are open to see patients in clinic. However, we do require both either the parent or the patient, if the patient is able. In some circumstances they're not, but at least the parent are required to wear a mask. We do take temperatures upon entry into our facility and complete a general COVID screen. And then some of our patients choose to wait in the car until we call them or they call us to say, hey, we're ready for our therapy appointment. So our operations have changed a little bit in the sense of, the excessive cleaning and then keeping people out of the entryway and those things. But we are in clinic, and then we might get to this, but we also offer some telehealth services as well. So we really want to accommodate the patients that are able to come to our facility, or the ones that just say, hey, let's discuss over the computer or over telehealth, and we'll provide the service that we feel is most appropriate and safe.
Yeah, we're doing similar things, and I think everybody is facing those same sorts of challenges and how to continue those access points, points of contact for folks with their organizations. What about the Family Support Network? How have your services changed in person?
Yeah, so like I said, we cover all 99 counties in Iowa. So luckily, most of our services are always done over the phone or by email anyway. Right now, our building is not open, so all staff is working from home currently and have been. But again, really it didn't interrupt day-to-day functions, just because most everyone, is over the phone or email. Those families who do live in like Polk County sometimes would walk in to our office. And like I said, right now, our office is closed, so we won't do walk-ins, but we have our a toll-free phone number that's answered Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. for families, and then email.
Yeah, great. And Pam, how has this affected you all at the hospital?
Yeah, absolutely. So my colleague Penny Smith was on the first Zoom presentation earlier today, and I think she kind of went into enough detail about just getting access into the hospital. I mean, we're screening like nobody screens. So people get screened before they come to the hospital. They get screened once they're at the hospital. Sometimes they get screened while they're at the hospital. So how that has affected the safety store is certainly the only people that are allowed into our hospital are either patients, approved visitors, and or an approved parent, or if you happen to be a staff member there. So that's the only people that actually can actually physically walk into our store. But the good news is we have an e-commerce site that has all of our products. And the other good news is that we are absolutely set up and have done this even prior to COVID. We do a lot of virtual and or just phone calls to with our education. So, even though we love the in-person engagement within the store, it wasn't hard for us to, move into this new way that we're doing things. And the other beauty about it is that we also have curbside delivery. So if you order if you don't want to pay a shipping fee, if it's a product that has a shipping fee with it, you're able to drive up and we have curbside delivery. So I think we've managed it pretty well and haven't felt like it's affected our mission very badly.
Great. And that's great to know about curbside, because we still like to get out of our houses and have things in our hands.
Yeah.
So I know I'm one of those people. So let's move over to Rebecca from the Iowa Children's Museum. So I'm sure this has drastically impacted the museum.
Yeah, so when the pandemic first hit, we were shut down, and we had to furlough everyone on our staff except for our executive director and our assistant director, who stayed on to kind of maintain all of the day-to-day functions. And then when the governor announced that museums can open up again, we hit the ground running and trying to figure out what we can do to support ourselves, because as a nonprofit, we do heavily rely on in-kind gifts and donations, as well as fundraisers. And our biggest fundraiser, which was going to be during the May time, we couldn't host it and couldn't figure out how to do it virtually. So we were trying to come up with different ways to be able to still employ our mission, but not have it be place-based. So meaning that not depending on admission rates. So we hit the ground running with trying to do things virtually. So a lot of our programs that were drop-off based, we're trying to do virtually, like our kinder. My cohort, Amber, she's been doing sing-alongs every Friday morning at 10 a.m. and that used to be our kinder drop-off program that helped support school readiness. And then I used to coordinate our STEM family free nights because those were a really, really big attended event on the last Friday of every month. Can't support that. So we're doing those virtual and allowing for downloadable materials that you can do at home, and trying to make sure that the activities that we do are with things that you have around your house. With that being said, in the museum, it took us a bit to figure out how we were going to make sure it was safe enough for people to come in and visit. And we worked really, really closely with the Johnson County Department of Public Health, as well as following CDC guidelines, and made a lot of changes. So our capacity has dropped significantly. We only allow 10% of what our original capacity was now. It's actually less than 10%, and I think it's actually 6%. And so instead of walking in, people used to be able to walk in and just pay for admission and go play for an entire day. We have now timed play sessions. So our hours are actually changing starting September 1st, but we have 2 play sessions, one from 10:30 to 12:30, and then one from 1:30 to sorry, 9:30 to 12:30, and then 1:30 to 4:30. So they're 3 hours long. And the capacity is 75 people for each. So it's very, very limited. We have 28,000 square feet. So people have plenty of room to stretch out, but we do have capacity limits on each exhibit. So we have 13 total exhibits, and there's a little circle on the floor saying 1 play group or 2 play groups or 3 play groups, again, depending on the size. What is a play group? Play group is whoever signs up for a ticket ahead of time, but the limit is 10. So it could be 2 families, it could be a family, like a parent and a grandparent and 3 kids. But again, the maximum that we allow in a play group is 10. So very, very limited capacity. And we also have really upped our sanitation and the products that we have on the floor. So the museum is very hands-on, minds-on exploration space. And to accommodate, we had to make a lot of changes to our exhibits because there's definitely some materials that don't sanitize as easily as others. So we had to get rid of all of our cloth materials. Like in our theater, you can dress up and put costumes on. We got rid of those and switched it to some gross motor, like stepping stones and rowboats and things like that, that we can easily sanitize. As well as in our grocery store, we got rid of a lot of the cloth things and switched to plastic. So with that, we're also sanitizing at the end of every day, and we're also sanitizing high touch areas throughout the day, at least an hour every day. So like things like railings, doorknobs, things like that, we're doing that. But we're also deep cleaning the museum every single day. So just to make sure that people are safe. In terms of staff, we are health screening our staff. So we ask for travel, and then we also do a temperature screening. And we also require masks. We require masks for age 6 and up, and we do ask for younger kids, ages 2 to 6, to wear masks, but we don't enforce it. Think that, there's a lot more that we're also changing too, but we'll talk about it later. But that for just in coming to the museum, those are the changes that we've made.
Yeah. Yes, we've had to do some similar things at the library with high touch surfaces. We actually had to get rid, remove all of the toys from our main space as well, because we couldn't have that out there and then having to worry about sanitizing all the wood blocks and all those things. So yeah, we feel that struggle here too. We talked a little bit about some alternatives to in-person services that you all are offering. And then are there some widely held parenting concerns or struggles maybe that your organization addresses regularly that you would like to speak on? We'll go ahead and start with Tara again.
Yeah, so I touched a little bit on some of the therapy services we offer. We treat a range of diagnoses. Our goal is to help a child achieve maximal functional potential. And again, that could be related to a developmental skill, such as being able to sit up or to crawl, or related to a speech service or a fine motor service. But specific diagnoses we treat regularly, torticollis, which can be a tightness in the neck that causes your child to tilt their head. We see more of that with children being in, I hate to call them containers, but being in a car seat for prolonged periods of time, different seating systems. So we help parents discuss, what are the best options for positioning to prevent an abnormal neck or head position. We also treat different genetic disorders. Cerebral palsy is a common diagnosis, along with other neurological concerns, such as a stroke, AVM, spina bifida. There are many different neurological conditions that can occur, and we take pride in helping our families find what is the best therapy approach. Again, what is the best, either if there's equipment needs, what are those equipment needs to help them be the most functional they're able. a treatment that's really close to my heart that I treat in the clinic is actually related to pelvic health. And so I treat both our mommies and kids, so the pediatric population. For our mommies, I treat any concerns with incontinence, postpartum, prolapse, pelvic pain, or a diastasis recti concern. So there's definitely a gamut there. And then for our pediatric population, we treat children that have suffered, especially school-age children that still suffer from day or nighttime incontinence. This can have a substantial impact on our family and our children's quality of life. And so we work with our children using it's called a biofeedback system, which is a computer system to help train them on how they can use their muscles via computer. So there's nothing invasive. It's a very interactive treatment that is a wonderful way that these children can overcome and learn how to control the muscles and that are needed to be able to stay dry during the day. And it's very rewarding to help children overcome these challenges. So.
Thank you. So you were talking a little bit about the different therapies. What about your sensory integration therapy?
Yeah, so sensory integration is more related to an occupational therapy realm, and I'm a physical therapist, so I can speak to it, but not as intelligibly as some of our occupational therapists. But it's much more geared towards a child's body awareness and how do they incorporate sensory systems. So the system of, our vestibular system, where is our head in space? How does our body perceive tactile feeling? How do we, from a movement standpoint, what is our coordination and how do we bring all these sensory pieces together so a child can regulate or be able to participate in a school activity or in an organized activity when their body just feels like it's being pulled in a lot of directions. It's definitely specific to each child, has different sensory needs, and our occupational therapists provide, there's an online screening tool, and of course they do an evaluation to find out what are those sensory needs and how do we put together the right program for them to help them achieve their functional goals. Great question.
And let's go over to Jennifer. So similar starting question. What are some widely held concerns or struggles? I mean, you did touch kind of on some of your programs and services, but are there ones that particularly stand out to you or anything like that you'd like to address?
Yeah, so a lot of times parents have concerns about their child's development or, maybe just wanting to know, is my child on target with the development? And so that's where the early access program helps with that. And on our website, we actually have a child development page on our website. So you can kind of look at, at 4 months old, here's what your child should typically be doing. Just kind of those developmental milestones on our page for families. That's a great resource for them to use. And then, if you talk to such as like an ASQ or like an MChat, then that's when, also maybe you want to talk about an early access evaluation. And again, if you go on our website, you can actually make the early access evaluation or the referral right there. And then a service coordinator would be in contact with you to come out and do like an actual evaluation just to see, again, if your child is meeting those developmental milestones. So that would be for the early access. And then also our Children at Home program, we see a lot of concerns, again, families who have children with disabilities. Adaptive equipment or special needs, it costs a lot, those equipment and all of that for families. So, hopefully with that program helping alleviate some of the costs for families.
Definitely. And what about your group-based like support networks for parents? Is there anything you'd really like to share with those parents who might be interested in something like that?
Yeah, so again, on our website, we actually have a map of Iowa, and it's broke down by counties. So you can actually click on whichever county that you live in. And if you click on there, that's where we try to keep a list of those group-based, maybe there's a parenting class, or if there's just an agency or organization in, Johnson County that provides group-based. We have that information available for families that we try to help connect them to.
Awesome. That's great. And we will have links to websites and stuff, and at the end we'll put up contact information for our presenters today. So if you have more questions, I'm sure they would be happy to help you with that, direct you to the people who can help you with that question if they can't do that. So yeah, and then let's go over to Pam. Are there any main concerns or struggles that the store sees most regularly when you're trying to address those accidental injuries or anything like that you see from parents and caregivers?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as all of us that have been parents, it's an overwhelming experience, and so whether it's your first child or, subsequent children down the road, it can be overwhelming. And so the other part, that's the research behind pediatric injury prevention is ongoing and ever changing. A great example I always like to give on that is my children are 12 years apart. And going back to my colleague who was on this first Zoom call and her safe sleep expertise, when my daughter was born, at that stage, you put them on their tummies to put them to bed. And then 12 years later, when my son was born, it's all of a sudden we need to put them on the back. And that's what's continued to be, has proven, and what the research shows to do. So there's the ever-changing need. It's always a great opportunity to reconnect with families and certainly educate them on maybe some changes that have happened. I would tell you probably our most common question, and where parents feel very overwhelmed, and it's often right before the birth of a child, is when it comes to child passenger safety or car seat education, because again, that is a message that changes almost annually as the industry makes automobiles safer. It can impact how and where you use a car seat in a vehicle. So that's something that comes up routinely on a daily basis, sometimes several times a day. But that's the other beauty about the safety store is we have injury prevention experts, and many of us are child passenger safety certified technicians. And so that's the ability to be able to educate and hopefully ease the concerns that parents have related to that.
Definitely. And is that something that, so they can ask questions? Is there somebody like a technician who would help them install a car seat or show them how to install it, or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a variety of ways. We've had a variety of ways, again, prior to COVID, but certainly the virtual education has had quite an uptick when it comes to car seat installations, and we're able to do that. And I think we've done it pretty successfully. However, we are able to do car seat installs at our hospital, whether it's for a family that's discharging directly from our labor and delivery unit, or an outside person that wants to come in and get help. And I think we're following extremely safe guidelines. We're doing screening ahead of that family coming, because it can be, some of that car seat installation can be just a difficult enough based on what kind of vehicle you have, what kind of car seat you have, that, certainly the in-person is best practice. But again, I think we've been managing very well virtually too, to serve the needs of our patients and families.
That's awesome. I know that, I am not a parent, not yet. So that, but that in and of itself, even not having that experience seems like it would be extremely overwhelming for me as well. So let's go ahead and move on to Rebecca. Are there any maybe struggles, or if you wanted even to talk about like explaining the importance of play to parents? That might be a question you get a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I think one of the biggest concerns or questions that I get from parents is how to structure play for their kids. And I think now more than ever, kids are not having unstructured or play in their days, and it's really important to help, again, develop those school readiness skills, those fine and gross motor skills, make connections, spatial relations, connect those neurons. And aside from the safety concerns in the museum, our biggest concern right now is our admission rate, and that, trying to make the point that play is crucial in child development and really important, and not something to kind of cast aside. And so I think that has been a really big, forefront in our mission, and that we try to provide the tools to allow for parents to take a lead in play, but also play along with their kids too. I think a lot of parents do get a little tripped up in, trying to have the right answers or trying to do everything right when in terms of, education content areas, but also like making sure that they're following every single step in, let's say, like a challenge or an activity. And it's not necessarily about that. It's about, being there and engaging with your child and asking questions and prompting. So I think that's probably one of the biggest concerns is, making sure that people know that play is important and it's okay to have unstructured play. And that we should have that scheduled in our child's day, no matter their age, whether they are newborn to, middle school. I think that it is really important. So, yeah, I think that covers that.
Yeah, thanks. So we're talking about how families interact there with their children. And I know that parenting guilt may be something that a lot of our families struggle with. So this is open to all panelists. So whoever would like to jump in on this about, we hear the term mom guilt, but really it's about all parents and caregivers, and that pressure that they feel to do the best for their child, but also they may feel some outward judgment from society, from people in their cohorts and whatnot. If anybody wanted to jump in on that.
Well, I can start. We see it all the time in pediatric injuries, as you can imagine, because as I referenced in the beginning, our parents are the gatekeepers of safety in a home. And so if, and also, as I mentioned, an unintentional injury can, almost always be prevented, or at least the significance of the injury. So in our hospital, so, but that guilt, I have to say, sometimes gets turned into unbelievable courage and a want to help prevent this happening from any other to any other family, right? So we have a lot of parents in all of our different pediatric injury prevention programs that have endured, their child's endured a significant injury, sometimes actually even death, but they want to be involved in our programming. They want to be a voice, and that is so impactful, as you can imagine. So, guilt with pediatric injury, we see it almost every day in one way or another, sometimes several times a day. And we have ways, I think we have really great skilled caregivers that are able to turn it into a positive as much as possible, but it certainly does happen a lot. Well, I've got 20 more seconds here. I want to make sure that I say, because I think we're, I don't know how long everybody's going to take, but in the giveaway bags that you guys all got, if you picked them up from the library, there were 2 pieces of information. One, we have an injury prevention survey that's related to the Safe Sleep program. It's on one of the flyers in there. And we're going to give away a lot of Halo sleep sacks based on how many answer that very quick survey. And then as far as the safety store, we are running a special on our e-commerce site and giving away a lot of $50 and $100 gift certificates. So make sure you look at those sites, and there's a special code to enter if you purchase something on our e-commerce site. I just wanted to make sure to put that in, plug that, in case this is the last time you hear from me. Thanks.
Thanks, Pam. Did anyone else? Oh,
I'll expand a little bit. Pam, you did a great job talking about, the parents and how really it turns into courage and their abilities to do what's best to help their children. And we see that as well every day in providing a therapy service. And we too try to work with our parents, and it might be a one-time screen where we say, hey, here's a few activities, do them at home versus come to therapy, once a week for a couple months. So working with our families to say, hey, we're only human. We can only do so much. Our schedules are limited, but here's some tools to help your child or help you work through some of the challenges that you're seeing and facing. And ultimately, the goal is to, help our families have, feel successful in helping their children, in our sense, be as functional as possible in their day-to-day activities. So yeah.
Thanks so much for that. Rebecca or Jennifer, would either of you like to weigh in on that? If not, it's okay.
I just thought I'd add in, some of the guilt that we've seen from talking to some families through our Children at Home program is, again, they're caring for a child who has a special need. And, that can be a lot of work if it's 24/7 care that's needed, even as the child is, maybe 14 or 15 years old. So one of the things we help pay for is respite. So just really encouraging families, it's okay to use respite. It's okay to, ask for help. It's okay to utilize that. You use your support system that you have and that, especially, with this kind of crazy time we're living in right now. If you are at home and, you really can't get a break. So, using a family member or a support system for families is really important right now.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially with school returning and everything, and that being a difficult situation to manage for those families, especially who maybe it's better for their child to stay home and they've made that choice, but that's still a hard decision to make for them, probably. So.
Yeah, I don't think we necessarily experience guilt in the museum, but we do get a lot of gratitude and thankfulness for us being open. I mean, maybe if, the play session is over and the kids want to stay, that happens a lot where they don't want to leave. I totally get that. It's so hard. But yeah, a lot of parents have been just expressing their thankfulness for how we've made so many changes to make things safe, and being transparent with those changes too. Trying to make sure we're communicating, and, enforcing things. Like if we see somebody not wearing a mask over their nose, we'll say something. I think that people have been really, really thankful that we're open to allow some relief in such a hard time. So
Definitely. So if folks have questions, I haven't seen any in the chat yet, but feel free to drop them in. We still have a couple of minutes here. Did we want to do the prize drawing, Jennifer?
We'll go ahead and do that after the this webinar then. I don't have all the names ready to be drawn, but we'll definitely let everyone know whose name is drawn. I can share from Sensory Kids Therapy Services. They donated a Learn with Buckles toy. So that looks like a pretty cool toy that kiddos would really enjoy playing with. From YPN, we have a Bundle of Joy Essentials kit as well. And we have a book bundle from the library, as well as a couple of gift cards to Target that the families can use for all of their baby and toddler needs. So just after this webinar, we'll go ahead and do that drawing. And if there's not any more questions, we'll go ahead and we're going to put up a slide that we'll share with everyone to have contact information for all of our panelists. So that way you can reach out to them if you have any additional questions. We do want to let our families and caregivers know we have limited capacity at the library right now, but for the next couple of weeks, you can stop in. And we have two vendors, Usborne Books and Sensory Kids Therapy, that are for-profit organizations, and so their vendor fee funds our Stork Storytime Reads program. And so they will have a table at the library that you can stop in, give us a call, and we'll get you a half-hour appointment to stop in and look at their tables. Right now you see some contact information from all of our wonderful panelists. So go ahead and reach out to them if you have any questions. We do want to also remind you, if you haven't had a chance, you can refer to their vendor bios that are going to be on our library website until the 2021 Expo. You guys did an awesome job at those. That was really wonderful, sharing some information and services that you provide for all of our families and caregivers. So make sure families that you refer back to those. Also, if you haven't gotten that swag bag, it is full of prizes, toys, giveaways, as well as that important information and flyers from all of our vendors. They did an awesome job at providing some really neat items in there. So you can again call the library at 319-626-5701, and we will provide a contactless manner that will set your goodie bag outside for you on the table, and you can pick it up and look through everything that is in there. We also invite you to listen, and learn through our monthly Talks podcast. It's also available on our website, and it's hosted on the SoundCloud platform, or you can access it as well from wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And if you are an expecting family, you're welcome to participate in our Stork Storytime Reads program. This helps the expecting family to develop a reading routine before baby and chaos arrive. After babies arrived, you can then transition to our 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten program. That's for infants, toddlers, and preschoolers. It promotes school readiness, and 1,000 books may seem like quite a bit, but you've got until they start kindergarten, and even after, if you need that extra time to work through that program. For both of them, you'll earn some wonderful prizes just for reading with your family. Both of these panel discussions have been recorded and will be available on our website as well for future viewing. I want to take this time as we're wrapping up to thank all of our families and caregivers for joining us. Thank you so much also to our panelists for participating in this panel discussion. And also thanks to our sponsor, Mercy Iowa City. We hope to see you all in person at the 2021 Expo. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.